Good afternoon. I'm Yoon, and thanks for joining our special coverage of the Camp David Trilateral Summit. A few hours ago, the leaders of South Korea, the United States, and Japan wrapped up their first standalone summit at Camp David. There, they announced key measures to solidify their three-way cooperation, as well as measures to counter key security challenges. Our Oh Soo-young, who has been traveling with the president, files this report.
South Korea, the United States and Japan have formed a trilateral cooperation system to immediately address common security challenges across the Indo-Pacific, including North Korea and China's actions that destabilize the region. At their Camp David summit Friday, President Yoon, Joe Biden and Prime Minister Kishida declared key three documents aligning their stances and institutionalizing their three-way cooperation, sustaining and building on the ongoing rapprochement between South Korea and Japan.
자유인권 법치라는 핵심 가치에 기반한 한미일의 강력한 가치 연대는 더 평화롭고 번영하는 세계를 만들어 나아가기 위한 든든한 토대가 될 것입니다.
The three countries plan to hold a summit between the leaders at least once a year, along with meetings between their top security and industry officials. Various frameworks for dialogue and policy coordination include a consultative body that would muster an immediate discussion and response to common security threats under the joint commitment to consult.
특히 우리 세 정상은 삼국 공동의 이해를 위협하는 영내 긴급한 현안이 발생한 경우 신속하게 협의하고 대응하기 위한 소통 채널을 수립하기로 했습니다.
On specific security issues, the three leaders called for the complete denuclearization of North Korea, agreeing to launch annual multi-domain trilateral exercises to enhance coordinated capabilities. They will also launch a real-time missile warning system and a working group to counter Pyongyang's illegal cyber activities. Also, for the first time, the three countries expressed their mutual support for a free and united Korean peninsula, and addressed the North's human rights violations, including its abductions and detainment of foreign nationals and prisoners of war. Furthermore, the trio broadened their commitment to a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific, opposing changes to the status quo by force. Calling out China's, quote, dangerous and aggressive behaviour and its unlawful maritime claims in the South China Sea. The three countries pledged greater engagement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and Pacific Island countries on maritime security and development assistance. They will also work in tandem with security initiatives like AUKUS and the Quad. On global matters, the leaders agreed to join hands on peace and reconstruction efforts in Ukraine. While the three countries have not formed a security alliance based on collective defence comparable to NATO's, the new era of trilateral partnership has been designed to be progressive and enduring in a rapidly changing world.
Officials say the Camp David meeting makes diplomatic history in the 21st century as the three Pacific powers form a distinct and independent force for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific security environment. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Maryland.
Another area the three countries focused on is how to strengthen economic cooperation. The three leaders thought one of the main ways to do this was in supply chains. Altogether, South Korea, the United States, and Japan hold a third of the world's GDP based on advanced technology. Our Kim Do-yeon explains further.
The Camp David Trilateral Summit has also started a new era of economic cooperation between South Korea, the US, and Japan. One key result from the talks was an agreement for a consolidated effort in protecting supply chains.
우리는 글로벌 공급망 안정, 에너지 안보를 위한 삼국 간 협력을 강화하고 해외 공급망 리스크에 대한 조기 경보 시스템을 함께 구축해 나아가기로 했습니다.
The president's top economic advisor explains that with the three countries accounting for a third of the world's GDP, this economic partnership has a huge impact on the global supply chain, especially considering the three economies are based on batteries, semiconductors, and other advanced technologies. The three also agreed to work together in research and development of key technologies in efforts to find future growth engines for the three countries.
특히 인공지능, 양자, 바이오, 차세대 정보통신, 우주 분야에서 한미일 협력은 큰 시너지를 낼 수 있습니다. 한미일이 추진하기로 한 국가연구기관 간 공동연구개발과 인적 교류 확대는 3국이 과학기술 혁신을 주도해 나가는 초석이 될 것입니다.
In addition, the three will be working to protect their intellectual properties to block technologies from being illegally exported or stolen by other countries. To that end, the Spirit of Camp David Agreement explains that they will conduct inaugural exchanges between the U.S. Disruptive Technology Strike Force and its counterparts to deepen information sharing and coordination across enforcement agencies. The three will also hold the first trilateral meeting between finance ministers as well as launch a new commerce and industry ministers check, which will meet annually. While the regular meeting will focus on promoting sustainable economic growth and financial stability, as well as orderly and well-functioning financial markets in their countries, they will also discuss a fund to help developing nations.
We're deepening cooperation between our development finance institutions to mobilize more financing for quality infrastructure and secure communications technology to help low-income and middle-income countries throughout the region take on the challenges that matter most to their people.
South Korea's top office has shown confidence that this trilateral summit particularly institutionalizes economic efforts instead of just setting the direction. Hence, the president's top economic advisor says the announcements are guaranteed to be sustained. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Another key phrase worth focusing on is people-to-people exchanges. The Camp David Trilateral Summit discussed ways to bolster prosperity not only in the Indo-Pacific region, but around the world by touching upon many common issues like public health and women's initiatives. Our Song Yujin reports.
The focus of the first-ever standalone summit among South Korea, the U.S., and Japan transcended their trilateral relations.
This summit was really about our relationship with each other and deepening cooperation across an entire range of issues that went well beyond just the immediate issues we raised. It was about more peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific, a region, quite frankly, that would benefit everyone living there and around the world if we get it right.
Together, the leaders of the three countries jointly addressed ongoing regional and global concerns. As part of their commitment to advance shared values of freedom and peace, they've scheduled a trilateral policy dialogue for October. There, the three countries will discuss ways to better synchronize and cooperate in areas of development policy and humanitarian response. Furthermore, the development finance institutions of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will pool resources to support countries in need, enabling them to access high-quality infrastructure, combat climate change, and establish resilient supply chains. A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Export-Import Bank of Korea, the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, and the Japan Bank for International Cooperation. They'll jointly finance development projects aimed at enhancing the economies and societies of developing countries around the world. Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo have also underscored their shared ambition to enhance multilateral development banks' role in addressing global challenges such as poverty. One way is the formulation of the World Bank Group Evolution Plan that's set to be completed by October. This blueprint seeks to expand the institution's support for underprivileged nations. Another area discussed that's essential for sustaining all these efforts is the continuation of people-to-people exchanges.
글로벌 보건, 여성과 같은 다양한 분야에서 협력 체계를 구축하기로 했습니다. 한미일 미래 세대 간 유대를 강화하기 위한 한미일 청소년 정상회의도 개최하기로 했습니다.
Dubbed the U.S. ROK Japan Trilateral Global Leadership Youth Summit, the event is slated for early next year and will be held in South Korea's southern port city of Busan. 송유진, Arirang News.
Thank you.
When spending hours at Camp David, the three leaders of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo were seen not wearing ties. This apparently suggested that they were holding talks in a more candid setting. And on the sidelines of the three-way summit, the leaders each held separate bilateral meetings. Bae-eun-ji tells us what was mainly discussed there.
President Yoon arrived at Camp David at 9:20 a.m. on Friday local time and stayed there for more than 7 hours before he left at about 4:30 p.m. The leaders of the three countries met at the presidential retreat in Maryland without wearing ties, which appeared to be an effort to show their strong bonds of friendship.
오늘날 미중유의 복합 위기에 대응하기 위해서는 영내 가장 발전된 자유민주주의 국가이자 경제 대국으로서 또 첨단 기술과 과학 혁신을 선도하고 있는 한미일 3국의 강력한 연대가 어느 때보다 중요합니다.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida also stressed the importance of their trilateral partnership.
And you've heard me say it before, Republic of Korea and Japan are capable and indispensable allies.
Making the trilateral strategic and collaboration a plus is only logical and almost inevitable and is required in this era.
Ahead of the Trilateral Summit, Yoon sat down with Biden for separate talks. Seoul's presidential office said in a press release that the two reaffirmed their commitment to achieve complete denuclearization for sustainable peace on the Korean Peninsula and decided to work closely together to deter North Korea's threats. It also said the two leaders highlighted progress on cooperation in economic security and advanced technologies and agreed to strengthen cooperation in fields such as nuclear energy and solar power. While at Camp David, President Yoon also sat down with his Japanese counterpart. This was his 7th bilateral summit with Prime Minister Kishida since taking office, as the two countries work to resolve historical disputes and restore ties. During the summit that lasted about 20 minutes, the two sides agreed to cooperate in a wide range of fields, including economics, finance, and energy, by resuming high-level economic and political talks by the end of this year. They also decided to strengthen cooperation in response to North Korea threats, but did not discuss the issue of Tokyo's plan to release wastewater from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear power plant. 배은진, Arirang News.
We're going to analyze what the three countries have decided to do from now on and what to look out for by speaking to a professor from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. It's Professor Min Jung-hoon. Great to have you with us today, Professor Min.
Okay, thanks for having me today.
All right, I'd like to ask you the first question. Leading up to the Camp David Trilateral Summit, we've been anticipating a new chapter in diplomatic relations between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo. And have we seen any groundbreaking results?
Yes, and most of all, I think that the Trilateral Summit got the breakthrough, the groundbreaking results in terms of institutionalize the trilateral meetings among the three leaders. And according to the joint statement or the Camp David spirit, and we can see that the three leaders will hold the annual meeting at least once in a year. So there's a possibility that the three leaders will meet more than one time every year. And along with the summit level and the high-ranking officials like the ministerial levels, they will also hold the annual meetings with their counterparts in the three countries. It means that our governments in the governments in the three countries will mainly talk about how they will enhance their cooperation in security and economic matters on a regular basis.
Right.
So compared to the past, where when the level of the cooperation among the three countries was very low and at the baby step, we will expect that the level of the cooperation among the three countries will be strengthened and will be at a higher level and in the coming years. So I don't think that we can see the kind of the new kind of the accomplishments, what outcomes in terms of this trilateral meeting, but in terms of the institutionalizing the summits among the top leaders and high-ranking officials, it will show come up with groundbreaking results in the coming years, and because our government officials always focus on what their top leaders talk about and what kind of the agendas emphasize. So in terms of the institutionalized the leaders meeting annually, our government officials will pay attention to what their leaders focused on in terms of the enhancing cooperations with the two other countries. So they will work hard and they will try to find the new agendas and the new topics to enhance the cooperation with the countries. So it's just kind of the beginning of the cooperation. So it will be a kind of the new chapter of the cooperation among three countries, but the very important institutional base was made through this summit.
As you mentioned, we might not be seeing solid accomplishments yet because it's only the first chapter. It's the first step, but we'll have to see with these routine meetings happening from now on forth. A second question I have for you, though, there were 3 documents signed. I'm wondering, why couldn't have this been one? Why did it have to be 3 separate documents?
It's because the three countries put the large value and importance of the Trilateral Summit and the kind of institutionalized the summit meetings among the leaders of the three countries. So think about what happens when the people create a new organization or institution. They try to make the kind of preface, the showing the what kind of the visions and the backgrounds and the principles the organization or the institution has, and after that, we can see the main agendas or the topics they will work on, and then after that we can see the details of these kind of projects, agendas, and other things. And we can also see the conclusion, showing that the organization will work hard and try to make the accomplishments in the coming years. So in terms of the three countries, the trilateral, the summit meeting and the cooperation, as you mentioned, this is kind of a new chapter of the trilateral cooperation. So they try to make the kind of the whole the version of the paperwork, or the kind of it's like the constitution of a country or the organization. So they have the Camp David, the principles, showing kind of preface or the kind of the overall the principles, the visions they share, or the strategical the goals that the three countries share. And Camp David the spirit is kind of the typical typical type of the joint statements of the summit meeting. So we can see the vision of the three countries cooperation, and after that we can see the details about how the three countries will work together in terms of enhancing their cooperation in security, economy, and the technology and other areas of work. So we can see the large details about how three countries will work together, and we also see the kind of the commitment to the consult. It's kind of the pledge or the promise that the three countries will work together when there will be kind of the grave security or economic threats, and then the three countries will work together to resolve that kind of the serious threats. So it's kind of just the promise, not the kind of the duty. So, but it shows the three countries' commitments to resolve the grave or the serious the threats in the Indo-Pacific region.
You mentioned a great point. It's not a duty, it's a promise. And that's why I would like to talk about the diplomatic terms used for each of these documents. If we take a look at the first one, the commitment to consult, take a look at the screen. You can see an excerpt that we prepared. A key phrase attached to this document could be military security. And the document basically paves the way for a three-way hotline and for the three countries to conduct annual military exercises, share intelligence, and hold annual trilateral summits. But as you mentioned, Professor, it uses the word commitment instead of duty. So how does this differ from a collective defense agreement or other security pacts in the past?
So, as you mentioned, if two countries or the more countries have kind of the alliance, or if they are the allies, then they have the automatic engagement, the duty when their member states are attacked by the outside enemies. So it's the basic mechanism of how the alliance system works. But through this trilateral meeting, the three countries just made the promises to just consult each other when they have their greatest threat. So totally different from the alliance system in that aspect. So we need to make the clear that the three countries just want to just talk and consult each other to resolve the grave threats and the issues in the region they are living. So they're totally different from the NATO and the RK-US alliance, or the US and the Japan alliance. So, and the three countries also the concerned about the possibility that China will have the very strong response about the promises and the results of this trilateral meeting. So the three countries all together, they don't want to make the China very angry in terms of the enhancing cooperation among three countries. So they try to adjust the level of their cooperation or the diplomatic terms to manage their relations with China.
That's a great point, and we'll be talking about the surrounding countries' reactions shortly. But I would now like to ask you, recently we signed the Nuclear Consultative Group Treaty with Washington. And now that Japan's in the picture, does that mean that they will join the NCG?
Well, it'll take some time because the NCG is still the beginning step. So they need to institutionalize itself in a bilateral format between South Korea and the United States. So they just had the first meeting between the two countries. So it means that they still have a long way to go. So possibly after having some kind of the institutionalized the basis, then they could be open to add Japan to the system or the institution. But it'll take much time because the two countries have a little experience in terms of the sharing the U.S. the nuclear capabilities and the South Korea's advanced the traditional conventional weapon systems. So it's kind of the big challenge for two countries, and so they needed to talk much about how they will actually share the sensitive information, nuclear capabilities, and other advanced military technologies. And then after having some kind of trust each other militarily, then they will work together to make plans and implement the field exercises or something like that. So it'll take much time. And so the two countries need to go through that kind of experience first. And after having some kind of institutionalized the basis or the ground, then, as I mentioned, they may talk about the possibility of joining Japan to the system.
It all comes down to this summit being an institutional start for any discussion to come forward. Now, foreign outlets, though, have raised questions as to whether the relationship between Seoul and Tokyo is actually sustainable. Though Yoon and Kishida have been meeting almost every month from March, there still is a lot of unsettled historical disputes and issues. To that, here's what President Yoon had to say. Let's take a listen before we go on.
그리고 국내에서는 그런 정부의 조치에 대한 반대 여론도 있습니다만은 우리 국민들은 무엇보다 미래지향적인 관점에서 한일 간의 관계 개선과 한미일의 협력이 우리 안보와 경제 발전에 매우 중요하다고 하는 것에 대한 인식의 공감대를 가지고 있습니다.
And Professor Min, that's what the president just said. But do you think that the Korean public is ready to put historical issues between Japan in the past?
Well, that issue is also very sensitive. It's kind of historical issue and they are still the victims in South Korea in terms of the relations with Japan in the past. So I think that it'll take much time before the two countries completely resolve the disputes. But I'm not sure when the two countries will make that kind of the progress in the coming years or the other months. But anyway, so there are many experts say that the South Korea and Japan need to have the more practical approach, like the two-track approach. So the two countries that have the shared the common interest in terms of the security and economic matters. So for the security and economic matters, they are ready to cooperate with each other and think about how the two countries work together to cope with the North Korea's increasing the nuclear and the missile threats. The two countries have the very close interest for that matter, and to think about the two countries the potential cooperation in terms of the advanced technologies and other the emerging the industries of the technologies. The two countries also have the very common interest in terms of the working together for their own economic interests, and the two countries have their own the strong capabilities in the advanced technologies, so they open to work together in terms of the securing their own economic interest and the security interests. So, but in terms of historic issues, it's very difficult to make the compromise because each country has got its own the domestic political situations and considerations. So not easy to narrow down the gaps that the two countries have. So it is more practical for the two countries to have the two-track approach. So the two countries could have the future-oriented approaches for the economic and the security matters. And in the meanwhile, so for the historical issues, the two countries need to have a little more time. So because it will not be easy to resolve such kind of sensitive issues in a short period of time. So they need to have the long breath and try to make the gradual progress in terms of close communications. And this kind of effort needs the both countries' consistent efforts to make progress and eventually resolve or find the alternative. For in a positive way.
And switching gears, we've been talking about security so far, but now I would like to talk about economic cooperation. The last document I want to talk about is the Camp David Principles, and there the leaders highlighted the importance of technology and economic cooperation. But can we see a win-win situation for all of these already flourishing markets in both Japan, South Korea, and Washington?
Well, we can see some blue ocean industry in terms of the advanced technologies and the core or the vital industries like the semiconductors and the large volume batteries, AI, the quantum computing, and the space industry and other things. So it's kind of blue ocean the industry, and there has been the established principles, norms, and the rules. So it's very important which country have got the priority or have got the established rules. Which country prioritize the principles or rules can make a huge difference in the future. So the South Korea, Japan, and United States want to lead that kind of efforts in those fields. So I think that the three countries could have the win-win situations in terms of the working together, in terms of the advanced technologies and the high-tech industries, because the three countries have their own strong points, a little bit different. And so we can make it the kind of the advanced with the synergy effect in terms of the other three countries, the cooperation. So of course, if they work together, and we can see they are a little bit different, the interests in detail. But those kind of details could be overcome in terms of the close communications cooperation. Anyway, South Korea needed to have the close cooperation with the United States and Japan, because the high-tech industries and advanced technologies should be the future the growth engine for South Korea.
And it's the best way for them to cooperate. All right, thank you so much, Professor Min. It was a pleasure to hear from you today.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you at this hour. Thank you so much for joining our special coverage of the first standalone trilateral summit between the leaders of South Korea, the United States, and Japan. Please join us again for our 6 p.m. cast with more updates.